Now look, I get it. I know there are a huge number of hardcore big dog owners out there who believe that owning a big dog is only the true pet to have and to travel with, and that if you travel with or own small pets like cats or small dogs, that you're kind of weird. Well, that's okay. I get it. I love big dogs too. But if that's the case with you, this probably isn't the video for you. It'll drive you nuts. But I hope you stay anyway. Today's video is about traveling with small pets. We're going to talk about the risks of traveling with them. We're going to talk about how you can make them comfortable, content, and safe. And we'll talk about the worst case scenario. What happens should they become lost, as they did in our case. Now, I suspect some of you out there may be a bit like me, and you become a little apprehensive when planning to travel with small pets. When you plan to travel with a dog, although I've never done it, I suspect it's a little bit easier in that you don't have to worry so much about losing them. They're more controllable, they listen to you. If they get out, chances are they're going to come back to you. But in the case of, let's say, cats, they may not. Some cats may, others may hit ground and they're gone. And it is a real worry if you're making many stops along the way. And some people, I get it, just choose not to travel with small pets. I hope by the end of this video that you, if you're one of those, that you will think, wait a minute, I can do this. There are things you can do to make them feel safe and so on. But there are risks too. And as long as you know what they are, your mind will always be, I think, thinking of ways to avoid any harm to them. In our case, we travel with two cats, Boogie and Squeaky, both rescue cats from Mexico. They go with us everywhere. We travel in a 1997 Class A Beaver diesel pusher. That's not important, but what is important is that it's an old motorhome with no slides. So it's basically a tube. It's like a refrigerator, on its side. And what you see is what you get. There aren't any extra accommodations coming your way because of the slides going out and so on. It's just a tube. And our cats do really well living in that motorhome for sometimes up to 7 months of the year. We're not full-timers, but we do take off on long journeys. And they do well. But there's always a risk that something can happen to them. Let's talk about the risks. And this, it doesn't matter if it's a dog or cat, whatever. We all could be faced with these situations. Our biggest concern when we're traveling is the chance of an accident. Whoa, really? That's something you can't control. If your unit breaks apart, well, your cats or dogs could get out and they're gone. You may be gone too in more ways than one. But you know what I mean. It's something you can't control, but you need to think about. Another concern that I often think about, but I don't dwell on it, is a fire. What if you're in your RV while on the road or even in a campsite being stationary and you have a fire?
Something's hot, burning, all sorts of pull over, pull over.
You need to get out quickly, and trying to gather up your pets can really be difficult, especially if they're cats, because again, they're not so controllable as with a dog. But it's something to think about. In our case, we chose a Class A motorhome, largely because of the cats. We call it our cat carrier, because when we travel, we want to be able to have access to them all the time. We don't want to be taking them in and out of the unit for fear of losing them. Every time you take a cat in and out of let's say a motorhome, a trailer, a fifth wheel or whatever, there's a chance you could lose them. The cage that you're transporting them in could come apart. You could drop them and then the cage bursts apart. Just something could go wrong. And so I say that only because if you're thinking of buying an RV and it's really important for you to be traveling with your small pets, a Class A is a really good choice because you're always together with them. Hey guys, okay, now I'm inside. I had to stop filming because somebody went by and I thought I should stop. So here we are inside Monty with AKA Michaela, and Boogie's in her cube, and Squeaky's still in the chair, and we're just recuperating from our trip from Rio Rico to here, which was very pleasant. You can control them getting in and out quite well. If you had a fifth wheel and you're having to stop frequently, every time you camp for the night, you've got to take your cats from the cab of your truck into your fifth wheel and back the next morning. There's always a risk that something could go wrong with that kind of a situation. And I know many of you out there travel with cats and fifth wheels, and you do just fine. But I'm just saying there is a risk every time you go in and out of that door, you could lose them. A dog, easier. Put them on a leash and take them from one vehicle to the other, right? But we feel that traveling with small pets is worth the risk. Sure, it can be a worry at times, but there are things that you can do to make things comfortable and safe for them. In terms of making your pet feel comfortable, safe, and content, again, I'm talking about cats in this case, and you know that. So it's not that I don't like dogs. I love dogs, but we travel with 2 cats. They go everywhere with us. They have survived in our motorhome during COVID for up to, I think it was 7-8 months they were with us, because we had to come back from a trip to Mexico through the USA and into Canada, and we had to quarantine for a while. And they did really well during that 7-8 month period. No, well, Squeaky got out for 3 months of that. So that's a whole different story. But let's not dwell about that. We'll mention that a bit later. Things do happen. And in our case, our 2 cats are very different. One cat is, if it gets out, it will come to us. This is Boogie. She's the outgoing, gregarious one. She's a sailor. She loves to go sailing with us. And she'll go out on the deck and have just a great time. And our safety net there is we don't allow her out on the deck when we're underway, but when we're at anchor, she just has a great time. The other cat tends to hide under couches and doesn't want to see that outdoor environment, except when he got away for 3 months twice, and he's a whole different cat. And that's our worry. We have one is a runaway and one is a gregarious party animal. Now, in terms of providing comfort and safety for our pets, this is what we do. We load up our cats typically the night before we leave. We get them used to the inside of the motorhome again. We place their cat litter box in the bathroom beside the shower, which isn't the best location. Who wants a cat litter box in your bathroom? But it's a tile floor, easy to clean, and we all share this family bathroom. But they know where that is, and they're comfortable with it. We also have opened up the underneath part of our scissor couch. We have the ugliest couch on earth, and we are going to get it recovered, hopefully this season. But in the meantime, on Amazon, I ordered one of these little, it's like a little person door. And I just cut out a hole on the bottom part of the couch. And so the cats can go in and out of this little doorway.
Squeaky, can you show me how you go into your
They
door?
love it because underneath the couch, aside from the part where the furnace sits,
There you go.
the other half of that area is just open space. So we put blankets in there for them, and they love it. It's a little hideaway. We just keep the door open. And at times when we want to keep them safe and we don't have time perhaps to put them into their cages, we just lock them in there. An example is a border crossing. When we cross the border into the US or Canada or Mexico, we typically let the cats go into that hole because that's their safety zone. We shut the door, and we tell the border crossing guards when they come in to inspect that we have 2 cats under the couch, and do they want to see them? And in every case they've said, no, we don't need to see your cats. They're just fine.
It's that little white door there,
Okay,
and I've got it.
That's where
closed.
you're at. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's under the
Okay,
couch.
thank you.
Okay.
At other times we have put them in their cages. in anticipation of the inspection happening inside the motorhome.
Okay.
Hola.
Hola.
Buenos
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
¿Cómo está?
And they get pretty stressed out when they see other people around them and so on, and they're in their cages. So we find this couch thing is ideal. We also travel. I mean, we look like weird folks sometimes. We travel with a cat condo so that we can put it up on the dashboard when we stop for the night or longer periods of time. And the cats love that. There's a scratching pad, and they, places where they can go up high to almost to the ceiling. And they also spread out on the dashboard. Now, Class A's are perfect for small pets that way because they typically all have flat, open dashboards, which is just a perfect platform for catching sunshine and watching the view and so on. Boogie, our gregarious party animal cat, she often rides up on that dashboard when we're going through cities, through traffic, and she just watches everybody going by. Another thing that we do very consciously is we make sure that their two cages are always accessible. They're either in the shower stall or they're on the bed when we're traveling, so that if anything happened, like a fire or an accident where we can still have a chance to get to them, we can as quickly as possible, pick them up and throw them into their cage. And then if we had to pass them off to somebody else who was trying to help us, at least they're safe. So having the cages accessible and in eye's view is really important to us. Another feature that we try to do, or another thing we try to do, is we make sure that all the screens in our motorhome are locked with just a little bar. It's a piece of wood that we put in there so that you can't inadvertently open the screen, because that's how we lost Squeaky once. I left a screen open and he jumped out. So if you just put one of the, it's actually a piece of dowel, round wood, and you just put it into the trough of your window frame, and so you just can't open that screen. You can open the window freely, and if you want to open the screen for whatever reason, you just put your finger in and lift out the dowel. So it's a good solution. So at least they can't get through the screens, because when you least expect it, that's when they get out. When you're, opening the screen to talk to somebody and then you forget to shut it. And sure enough, you look around and your pet's gone because it's found the open space. In terms of the unexpected happening, what we've learned with traveling with cats is that they always need to have an escape route. So if you have everything closed off and something traumatic happens or something scary confronts them, then they feel trapped. So that's why this opening under the couch is useful, and any other place that your cat may feel safe going to, it's important, leave that open for them so that they just don't feel trapped. And another obvious thing, and please don't feel that I'm insulting you by suggesting this, I need the reminder, because it has occurred to me once in a while that I'm missing the boat on this one, is always make sure you know where your pet is. It's easy to get overwhelmed with certain things happening as you're traveling, and you may assume that your dog or your cat is where you last saw it. It might not be. Something may have happened during some commotion that you just went through, and your pet could have gotten out. And you drive off down the highway and you realize it's not there. So I'm a bit OCD that way. I'm forever looking for our cats to make sure I know where they are. So if you see me in some of our videos and I'm on the ground, I got my butt in the air and I'm looking under a chair or whatever, then it's just making sure I know where Boogie and Squeaky are. Should something happen, I know where to go to get them really quickly. So just making sure you always know where they are. With a dog, chances are it's going to be right there on your lap or sitting between your seats or whatever. So a little bit easier. So let's say that you've done everything right. Your cats are comfortable. They feel safe. You're just looking after them wonderfully. But what happens if something does go wrong? What happens if they do get out? And in our case, Squeaky, the runaway, got away twice. And over a 12-month period, he was gone for 6 months, lost in remote campgrounds in British Columbia. It was a pretty upsetting thing. The last thing you want to do is drive away from a campsite without your pet. In our case, we were lucky. We were able to stay because we're basically retired. We were able to stay and look for him. In one case, we stayed put for 3 months, and we found him after 101 days or so on. And on the second occasion, again, it took close to 100 days before we found him. And in that case, we had to leave him after 1 month of looking, but we returned every weekend over another 2-month period, driving 8 hours each time to look for him. And we found him, after 3 months. And in both cases, he was almost gone physically. He was emaciated, but he survived. So over the last couple of years, we haven't lost him again. But it is always a concern. So that's why I'm making this video, to share with you. You could still have a great time with your cats, but there is always that risk. And we lived it for a while. But what do you do should your pet get out? Well, we've learned a few things. Number one, we always travel now with 3 trail cameras. Now that may seem silly, but we have these trail cameras that can be attached to trees or wherever, and they're really effective at searching for your pet. Because if you're in a remote campground somewhere and your cat goes missing, or even your dog goes missing, you can't have eyes in that area 24 hours a day. But with a trail camera, you can. And if you have 3, as we have in our case, you can strategically place them around your rig, around the area where you think they might be, and then check the cameras regularly, rather than having to go out into the woods and calling their name and just hoping they'll come to you. What we've learned with cats, with some cats, as with Squeaky, once they hit the ground, they're gone. And everything and everybody is a threat to them. So even though they may be a loving pet at home, a cat can often just revert to being feral. And that's what Squeaky does. And he does not show himself to anybody. So in his case, we had to trap him. And to this day, he's the most loving cat you can imagine at home, but we always worry about him getting out. So traveling with trail cameras are good. You can buy these things for $40 or so, and they're really effective. They have a little SD card, and you just stick that card in your computer, and you can become professional cat trackers. So that's an important thing to have. And in our case with the cats, we make sure that they're both microchipped. That's really important. And there are stories, and we've all heard them on the news, where cats go missing, and months later or even years later, they pop up somewhere, and a vet has microchipped or read the microchip, and their owners are found. There's heartwarming stories about that. So microchipping your cat is important. And the other thing that we do, we have a tracker on the collar for the cats now. And it's just another precaution. And in our case, we've gone with a radio controlled tracker. I know that there's all sorts of trackers that you can get on your Apple iPhone or other smartphones and so on, where you can, with GPS and all sorts of coverage, you can try to track your pet. And you can even know what their heartbeat is and what their health status is. I don't go for all of that. I just wanted a basic radio signal tracker, because we're often in areas where there isn't a strong or at all a cell signal, and or internet or anything, so the old basic radio controlled devices, I kind of like the simplicity of those. And the one that we have is simply a device where the cats have a little transmitter on their collar, and then we've got a receiver, and you walk around with this device as I'm showing you here, and it's you will hear a tone when you're heading in the right direction. It's all by lights and tone. And the beauty of this thing is the batteries last a long time. So if your cat is out there missing for 3 weeks or so, the battery's still going to be alive. With some of the other trackers, the battery life is not that strong, I think. I'm not an expert on all the other ones, so please don't hold me to that. The other thing I like about the one that we have, which is called the Giraffus, is, and I'm not trying to sell it. We're not getting paid for this. This is one that we bought off Amazon, but it's been really good. The range is about 1,600 feet. So that's a pretty good distance. And even though your cat may be 3,200 feet away from you, or your dog, once you get within that 1,600 feet, bang, it'll start registering. So you may have to do a lot of walking. What we found with losing Squeaky twice was that that cat did not travel very far. In the first case, after missing for over 100 days, we found him about 1,500 feet from where our motorhome was placed. On the second occasion, after 3 months and a bit, we located him within about 60 meters. So what's that, 200 feet or so of where he went missing 3 months earlier. So the cats typically don't wander that far. They may be right under your nose when you're looking for them. And when you have to leave Yellowstone National Park or some other nice place that you're at, and you think, my God, I don't have my cat with me, chances are the cat was very close to you, but you just couldn't get to him. So these trackers are really good.